Okay, so what should be happening with the arms and the hands in the downswing? It's a topic that confuses quite a lot of players. So in this video, I'm going to clear that up for you, make it super simple. So when you go out and practice on your game, you know what you should be looking for. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Danny Malcolm, and in today's video, I'm going to be discussing what we should be looking for when it comes to the hands and the arms in the downswing. A topic, like I said before, that confuses a lot of players. And so I just want to clear things up for you today to give you some simple things to look for when you're working on your golf swing. So firstly, assuming that we've got a pretty good backswing in place, I'm going to talk about what happens from the top of the backswing through into impact. So when I talk about hand path, that's basically saying from the top of the swing, where the hand's traveling. Are they traveling out this way? Are they traveling this way? Are they traveling this way? Or from front on, it would look like, are my hands staying relatively wide? Are they coming fairly narrow, or somewhere in between? So what we should be looking for, and firstly, in fact, let's look at the most common thing that I see is from the top of the backswing, players that tend to get the hands working too far out this way. Now that's really more of a steepening move. It's more, some people say you can actually shallow the club, but for me, when the club's working out this way and you've got the body rotating, rotation itself on its own from the top of the backswing is a steepener. So if you were just going to swing to the top of the swing and then just rotate, leaving your arms up there, if I just rotated, the hands are working out, and that's getting the club working steeper. Some people say, yes, you could shallow the club by doing things with your wrists, but you're going to have to do some funky things from here to get back to the ball. So it's not going to be very good for most people. So that's the first thing to note, that that's not what we're looking for from the top of the swing. We don't want to leave the hands up there and just rotate, because then the hand path and the arms are going to work out too far in front of you. Generally, you'd miss the ball if you just continue from there, and that's why oftentimes players have to react late, stand up, get the body very square on, stop rotating in an effort to try and make contact with the ball, because the brain's pretty clever. It knows that you don't want to miss the ball, so your body will do what it needs to do to make contact and start it somewhat on line towards your target. So that's the first thing that we see probably more often than not. And the opposite to that would be when you get to the top, and you might have seen this, and I often sometimes talk about this feeling of trying to get the hands working more down this way here. But oftentimes what can happen there, if you do it too much and the body doesn't rotate at all, now you're stuck in here. Now you're going to be grounding the club before oftentimes, or you're going to be hitting big hooks or blocks out to the right. So they're kind of the two extremes of where the hand path and the arms would go. And we really want to, for the most everyday golfers, we want to sit somewhere in the middle. So to do that, you need a blend of a few things to really be working. So this is just a nice athletic move, the golf swing. We can make it super complicated. I'm going to try and simplify it for you here. So the first thing from this view, first of all, what you'd be looking for, so when you get to the top of the swing, if you just look at where my hands are traveling relative to the camera, to the top, so on the way back, you'll notice that my hand is almost towards where my golf bag is there in terms of how wide that hand is. Now in the downswing, what the best players in the world do, they'll have this shift towards the target where they recenter and get their pressure moving forward, and that from the front on view would make the hands in the downswing work more in this way. So in the backswing they were about here, in the downswing they've come through here, but I've done that more with my body and my shift across, rather than what you see a lot, and we speak about this, is kind of you want to get wide to narrow, but don't take that the wrong way and be starting to go wide to narrow, because this is no good from here. This is no good. So we get that beautiful width on the backswing, and then the hands will look like they've come narrower, but that's because my body's shifted across. I've kept some beautiful width here. So that's the first thing I just want to note before we look at it again from this angle. So that's number one, an element that needs to be in there. So number two, now we start to look at where should the hands be going. So there's going to be a blend of, and just think about this logically, in the backswing, the arms have got to work up to some degree, right? Because if we just took our setup and just kept the arms where they were and just rotated, the swing would look pretty flat, right? Pretty around us. Hard to generate power from there. You might be quite consistent, but hard to generate any real speed. So there's got to be an element in the backswing of the arms working up as we go back. So the top of the backswing would look more like this. So from front on, if I just turned around here and kept my arms there, it's more up in this position. Right, so if we were then to swing to the top in that position, like I said before, just purely rotate and leave the arms up there, then we're going to get in that steep position and have to start to react from there. So there's got to be an element of what goes up must come down, right? So as we get to the top now, what I love most players to feel is, as that little shift across, is now feeling a little bit almost like this arm just pins back slightly back across the chest. And there's going to be an element of lowering the arm. Some people say pulling the chain, sort of these ideas, which if done correctly, yes, but just be wary of if you start to lower your arms, you don't want to pull it this way. And this is using your wrists as well, right? So if you start just pulling, the shaft's going to steepen still, and that's not a great position to be in. So as your arms lower, you do still need to be wary of where you're pitching the shaft itself. So that's largely to do with the wrists, which we'll speak about in another video. But for now, just understanding where the arms and the hands need to work. So as we get to the top again, there, we're starting to shift towards a target. And as you start to blend in all three now, so you're blending in a little bit of a shift towards a target, got a little bit of rotation coming in there as well. But if you don't lower the arms, the hand's going to come out too much. So there's got to be an element of matching all this up. So this is a blend of all three. So we've got the rotation, we've got the arms lowering, and that's going to get you in a wonderful delivery. From here, you can just rip through the shot and you haven't got to compensate. So impact is often preceded, obviously it's preceded by what's going on before. But if some positions are out of place here, then you're going to have to do some funky things last minute to try and make good contact. And that's probably why your impact position isn't as you might like it to be. So that's just something I really wanted to speak into today, is what should be happening with your hands and the arms from the top. So again, assuming you've got a decent backswing position, you've got this shift across for one. So from here, shift across, and that's going to give you that beautiful width and that lag that we're all looking for. What you don't want to be doing is trying to get narrow with the arms, because then you're going to have to release that angle to try and make contact, and you've lost all that power, lost all that lag, all that good stuff that we're looking for, that juicy stuff, right? So that's just what I wanted to speak into. So when you're practicing next, just be wary of some of those ideas. Now, if you're a player that does tend to come over the top and you're more in this position where the hands work out too much, and then you might need to feel the exaggeration of this kind of idea. And that's just a feel. Of course, you don't want to be in there, but if you're at this extreme, you might have to be more here, which at full speed will get the club on a beautiful plane into delivery, because that's really the goal of this, keeping it simple, trying to get the golf swing on a decent plane, give you some decent control of the club face, and you're going to be a pretty steady golfer if you can do those things, a more consistent golfer, shall we say. And on the smaller percentage side of things, are the players that I see, you might see very few, you don't see many that are two in here, maybe a few, but for a player like that, they might need to feel either a bit more rotation, because again, rotation by itself is a steepener, so more rotation will bring the club back out in front. If you're out here and you're rotating, it's too much. So if you're here, you need to be adding in a little bit more of arm lowering and even a bit of side bend and these ideas. You need some shallowing ingredients if you're that kind of player. But again, I hope that just gives you a little bit of clarity or understanding of where your arms and your hands should be moving in the downswing. So just want to avoid the extremes again. We don't want to be coming out too far that way, not too far in this way. We want to kind of blend all those three movements, and I shift towards the target as I start to rotate and as I start to lower the arms and the hands. So the club comes into beautiful delivery, and then from there we can rip on through and hopefully start to hit some better looking golf shots. So hope you enjoyed that video. If you are interested in online coaching, please click the link above there. I am offering online coaching now for clients all around the world. And if you do have any questions, please let me know. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.